So this is Danielle LaSusa. She'll be joining us in just a moment. And this is how you can follow her or get online with her. She also has a class coming up that she is going to be talking about today, which I'm going to throw in the chat right now for her, so that you guys can open it and take a look at it while she's talking. So let's invite her to come and join us. Hello, Danielle.
Hi. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah. Do you see that we're matching today, Danielle?
Yeah, I know. We got the color going on, the hair. It's Have you got the memo that I sent you?
Yeah, great. Good. Yep. Okay.
Okay, well, hi, everybody. I'm Danielle LaSusa, and thank you again to both Sarah and Olivia for their tireless, endless work on this. You two are amazing, and everyone else who's been talking today. I'm going to share my screen with you. This is my little calling card here. So to introduce myself to you, I am a practical philosopher. I call myself a philosophical coach, which is a title I just sort of made up. My background is as a philosopher. So I have a PhD in philosophy, and I taught in academia for many years. And after the birth of my child, a lot of things changed for me. I moved across the country and away from a job that I really loved, and kind of had to start over and figure out what to do next. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that story later. It's kind of a doozy. But I'm also a writer and a speaker. I talk around Portland and other places, and a podcaster. I have a podcast called Think Hard. So you can listen to me talk there about all things philosophical issues in everyday life. Okay, so the big question that I am often interested in is, what does it mean to make a human person? I feel like motherhood is not really talked about in those terms. It's often like, how do I take care of this child? Or what do I have to do to prepare for birth or labor or childcare? You go to those new baby care classes, and it's all like how to swaddle a baby 8 different ways and how to breathe for labor. But also you're making a human person. And to me, that just seems like kind of a big deal, and it's not really discussed as such. So I'm interested in that question. How do we wrap our heads around making a human person? And I wasn't always interested in this question. I guess I want to tell you a little bit about my story to kind of tell you how I came to this. So this is me. This is a picture of me from February 17th, 2015, a little over 4 years ago, with my daughter, who's now 4.5. And this photo was actually taken 2 days after I was discharged from the Cedar Hills Psychiatric Hospital. I spent about 4 or 5 days in the Cedar Hills Hospital with postpartum psychosis. So that was essentially like me not sleeping well after the birth of my daughter. My hormones were, all over the place. It was really emotional. I was anxious and afraid all the time. And I couldn't sleep because I was anxious. And then I got more anxious because I couldn't sleep. And I was anxious about not sleeping. And then I just didn't sleep for several days. And I sort of lost touch with what was real and what wasn't real. I think my philosophy brain started to go into overdrive, and it got really scary and really weird. And so I spent a few days in hospital, and I spent another 1.5 months in an outpatient program. And after that, I got a job teaching global history to 9th graders at a school here in town. And it just was not a good fit for me. And so I felt like my entire life had just blown up. My career had blown up. I didn't really know anyone in town. I just spent, months, recovering from a psychiatric break. And then I remembered that several years ago, I had done this training in philosophical counseling. which is essentially the idea that you use your PhD in philosophy as a foundation for talking to people about their lives. Philosophy is this discipline where we ask really good questions. We think about ethical issues, we think about values and meaning and what's important and relationships. And we have this whole body of literature from thousands of years written by some of the wisest people in history about living well that we can draw on. So that's what I do. And I started specializing in serving moms because, in part, my experience was so horrific, and I felt like there was a need for people to talk about this stuff. Once I kind of recovered from my experience and wanted to get back into like meeting moms and finding my footing, I wanted to talk to them about this question. What does it mean to make a person? I felt like all of those new mom groups, although really important for like grounding and like staying sort of stable and doing like kind of crisis management, sort of like how do I get my baby to sleep questions, I didn't feel like there was really a place for me to say like, I'm sort of freaking out because I made a human consciousness that's gonna like think about me and like has its own like thoughts and will have its own thoughts, and like I'm gonna be a character in this person's story and I can't control that, and it's sort of freaking me out. I just like, there are all these questions and I couldn't find any place to talk about them. So I decided to make one. And that's kind of what I do now. So I work with clients one-on-one and I teach classes, but essentially I'm asking these huge questions that come along with parenthood. And these are the big scary questions I think that Olivia and Sarah were referencing. Questions like, what do I care about now? Or who am I, right? Like, I think once we have a baby, your sense of like what's important to you totally changes. Whether it's like the work project at work used to be really, really important, and then suddenly it's like, it feels like it doesn't matter at all. Or, just things that you used to spend your time doing that seem to like have no impact on you now. So it really messes with your sense of self, your sense of identity, as some of the previous providers were saying, like, Danielle was saying, I missed my connection to dance, or I missed my pre-baby self. And then we have to like feel guilty about that because people are telling us that we're not supposed to have identities outside of being mothers. And like, if we regret anything, it means we don't love our children or something. It's just like so weird. So I want to create a safe space to talk about that. The question, what does it mean to create a life? Like, there's so much responsibility that comes with creating a life, and then like being responsible for shaping and molding that person, and what does it mean, and how do you teach them how to be happy, and what does it mean to be happy, and it's like so much. What is the meaning or purpose of life? Like, is the goal to be happy, or is the goal to be like moral and good? And what do those things mean? And how do we teach our kids this? I feel like this moment of crisis where everybody's like, all of our routines are shifting, everything is sort of like moving out from under us. And a lot of people, I think, are grappling with this questions of like, what is all of this for exactly? Like, what are we doing here? And I think that can feel really scary if you don't have someone to connect with about that. What do all of my emotions mean? How do I manage them? Like Margot, I have a strong background in meditation and mindfulness. I've done a few meditation retreats and practice using those tools and techniques a lot in my practice. And I should say my practice is mostly like me talking with clients one-on-one, similar to the way that you might talk to a therapist, but my goals are a little bit different. I don't diagnose, I'm not a medical provider. And so for me, it's about like personal growth and development and that sort of stuff. So a lot of these questions are the things we address. What are my ethical responsibilities to this new human that I created? That's scary. And how do I know what to do? I feel like there's all of this conflicting advice about what the right thing to do is when you are a parent, and particularly a mother. And the stakes feel really, really high. Like if you get it wrong, you're just like, you're failing. And that's just a lot of pressure. And so how do we question that? How do we regain control over what's important to us, regardless of what's important to society or anybody else. Okay, so quickly I want to mention that I'm teaching this course called The Meaning of Motherhood, which explores a lot of these questions in a class setting with other people. You do not have to be a mother to take the course. It's really cool to have non-mothers in the class with mothers. There's a lot of like information sharing that happens there. The next offering is going to be in October. And remains to be seen if it will be in person or online, sort of depends on the current situation and how that develops. Either way, I'll make a decision by August 1st and registration will be open then. Also, I wanted to mention next weekend, if you're around, I'm going to be teaching this free online philosophy class called Crisis Meets Curiosity. And the idea is that we'll be talking about crisis, the crisis we're in, and how curiosity is this really important tool, I think, for understanding our current moment, understanding ourselves, and also for like understanding our emotions. I think that being curious about ourselves is a really great way to sort of like be an antidote to all of the stress and anxiety and anger and whatever else you're feeling at the moment. So we'll talk about that tool and how to use it. And then here's me. I offer free phone consultations. You can go to my website, daniellelasusa.com, and sign up for one with me there, or send me an email. And it looks like there's a couple of questions. Is that true?
Yeah, it looks like you've got 2 in the Q&A. So the first one is totally, and then what happens if your child is neurologically different? Is your version of happy different than their version? And is it important if it isn't? So many questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Danielle, it is. I mean, it's like, it is. I think that like, you know, we don't know what happiness as a society really means. And we all just want to be happy. But we all kind of wander around going like, well, how do I get there? Like happiness is this magical finish line that we're all sort of racing towards, except that we're all like kind of wandering in different directions, or we're doing what like commercials tell us to. Like if you have the right, you know, house or the right, I don't know, countertops or the right bra or something, that like you will be happy. And so the question is like, how do we sort all those messages out? And how do we tune into that sort of voice of inner wisdom inside of you that knows, at least knows the question to ask, like, is this moment making me happy? Is this thing actually making me happy? So Elizabeth asked, can you drop a link for the weekend thing? Yes, that is in the chat box. So Olivia put that there. And you also can come to my website and sign up for my mailing list. I'll be sending out an invite newsletter thing on Tuesday, and you can get more info from me there.
We've also got a question from Sarah asking, can partners join in, or is this just for women? Question for both workshops.
Totally welcome for partners. I do not, like, not all of my clients are like women or mothers. I have plenty of people who do not identify as women. And yeah, I think that the class is really open to anyone. I think it would be actually really valuable and important for partners to get a sense of, you know, the pressures that are put on moms to be a certain kind of way. And then to explore some of those bigger questions, like, I made a person with their own thoughts, and what does that mean? So that's a question anyone can just muse over.
That's great. Awesome. Well, if nobody else has any questions for Danielle, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great to see you.
You too. Thank you both, and thanks to everyone. You are amazing, and I can't wait to see how it all turns out.
I think that's all of us. I think all of us here can't wait to see how this all turns out.
I mean, you know, what can you do but just sit back and wonder?
Yeah, right. Definitely. Well, thank you for being here. We appreciate you.
All right. Bye.